When we last left our heroes, we saw Duke coming down from a rage he had discussing his disappointment with the way Marvel treated the Hulk character in the Infinity Saga, and Ronan was merely wanting peace in our time with the way gamers and moviegoers saw movies, not realizing he was talking about Duke and his rage with Hellboy and Gemini Man. Let's try to find our heroes, shall we? Oh, I think I found them. Here they are, around a crackling fire to discuss what they loved in 2019. Let's see what they're saying, shall we?
I'm still not right, yo. To bring the 5 biggest pleasant surprises in 2019.
Yeah, hopefully this will calm you down. So
yeah, hopefully.
That was a bit of an emotional thing. I could have sworn I heard some holes being punched in the walls. I could have. I don't know.
I'm not Tyler. Or what is it? What's the Kyle? I'm not Kyle, bro. I do like my monsters, though, definitely. All right. So welcome back, everybody. We're going to be discussing our top 5 biggest pleasant surprises in 2019. So it's going to be a lot more of an easy ride here. Thank you for tuning back in. We're going to be digging into our desserts now.
Yes. So put up your bibs, refill your glasses.
That's right. Get ready.
Yes, because now it's the tastiness.
And include, just like in the last video, go ahead and put your top 5 pleasant surprises in 2019 into the comments. Let's see what you guys got.
Yes, we're excited to see what you all thought was very, very surprising for you in this past year.
That's right. Why don't you go first?
All right. So again, these are our opinions, and mine are in no particular order. So my first one came out right at the beginning of the year. It was a very super exciting one. One of the very few movies I did see this year was the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie.
Oh my god.
Yes, this one was freaking awesome. Not only is it Broly, who's a fan favorite for the DBZ community, but he is now officially canon in the story.
That was the biggest thing, yo.
Yes.
The biggest thing.
To those that don't know, the 3 Broly movies, Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, Broly Second Coming, and Bio Broly, which is not Broly. If you say it is, we disown you now.
Right.
They were non-canon movies, so they did not take place in the main storyline of Dragon Ball. But this one does. It takes place soon after the Tournament of Power, which is where the first series of Dragon Ball Super ended.
Right.
It delves into the backstory of Planet Vegeta. So you get to see the redone final days of the Saiyan race. From you're introduced to Broly as a baby and how he was banished from the Saiyan kingdom, to him actually coming into the employ of Frieza in a very somewhat convoluted plot to collect the Dragon Balls.
Yeah.
For a very hilarious reason, which I will not spoil because
I was just about to. I'm glad you stopped me.
Yes. But the animation is really well done. It incorporates a lot of the 2D animation with like 3D backgrounds, which can be a little disorienting at times, but it's still very well done. The fight scenes are really cool. As far as DBZ goes, there's one part where you actually go into a first-person viewpoint of Broly fighting against Goku, which is I don't think has ever been done in a Dragon Ball thing before. What they did with Broly was probably the biggest change and the best change they did. To go into a little bit of spoilers for the Legendary Super Saiyan, Broly always had this power to go into Berserker Saiyan mode, where he gets that super buff, 10-foot tall physique.
Yeah.
But the thing that people hated about him was his motivation. He got all that anger and power simply because when they were babies, both Broly and Goku were in the same nursery next to each other, and Goku would not stop crying to the point that it mentally scarred Broly.
Yeah.
So anytime you mention Goku's Saiyan name Kakarot, he goes into Berserker Fury, which is really dumb.
Yeah.
And Team 4-Star brings it up perfectly in their take on the movie, because Vegeta's losing his mind. He's like, "Oh my god, he's so cool! but his motivation is so
right.
But in this one, they really make him a very more sympathetic character. He's a very gentle soul. He doesn't like fighting. He only trained and fights because his dad told him to, and his dad has a vendetta against King Vegito and now Vegeta, since he's the successor. But they really made him into this like mindless berserker, into this really cool gentle character that when they start the second series, I really hope we see a lot more of. But it was a really good movie. Another one of those where it was made for fans of the series, because if you go in there not knowing much about Dragon Ball, you're really not going to get it, which is what a lot of critics said about it. They didn't have a good grasp on the lore, so they didn't really give it good ratings, but all the fans freaking loved it. And Broly, the new Broly, is a breakout character. There was a lot of advertising done in Japan. There's a video going around the internet where they have a guy in a Broly suit, and it looks like charmingly dorky, because it's like a styrofoam looking kind of thing.
I don't think I've seen that one.
No, if we can find it, if you can find it, you definitely have to see it. Just like Google Broly restaurant battle or something like that, and it'll pop up.
Okay.
They included him in the most recent update to Dragon Ball FighterZ, so he's a big breakout character now that he's officially in the canon. So I'm excited to see where they're going to go with next.
Yeah, it was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. The animation was very high quality, very, very good.
Yes.
I loved the fighting, especially the fact that they incorporated God modes with both Goku and Vegeta. Not only did they make Broly canon, but they even made the fusion dance canon as well.
Right, between Goku and Vegeta for Gogeta. I totally forgot about that. He's
therefore
canon
therefore making Gogeta canon. And it was a nice little throwback to the whole GT. What was it, GT? Yeah, it had to have been.
Yeah, in GT, which is now stricken as not necessarily uncanon, but like alternate reality canon. The fusion of Gogeta, Super Saiyan 4, is canon in that reality, but not in Super's reality.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the fact that was made canon as well, that was very fun, very emotional to see. It was just very pleasant. It really did make me feel good. It was a very feel-good movie. It was awesome. It was cool. At some point, it like broke through a dimension at some point from how powerful their fighting was.
Oh yeah, they went into the quantum zone or something.
Right.
I could have sworn I saw Ant-Man flying in the background.
Yeah. Which a little side note. One of Hulk's powers is that he's so powerful enough that he can punch through a dimension. He can punch through a dimension. He can punch through it. So yeah, it was so good. It was so good. I loved this newest Broly movie, and I'm so excited to see what else they can do with it.
It was one of the first times in a very long time that I had the entire audience that I was with cheering and laughing.
Yes, dude. That's one thing. Lisbeth, I saw it with my fiance, and so she's a nerd too. Okay, she is very much into nerd culture, just a little bit different from what Mike and I. It's more guy, obviously,
right? More
guy stuff. So at the end of the movie, in my showing, everybody stood up and clapped at this movie. Okay, and Lisbeth was just looking around like, "What are these dweebs doing, bro? It's just a Broly movie." And I'm over there, just, I'm over here with, trying to keep my posture, trying to keep civil in front of my girlfriend. But no, so I didn't stand up and clapping just because, I try to save face a little bit. But if it wasn't for her being there, I would have probably been standing up on my chair going, woohoo, woohoo, with my little scarf, waving it around. But man, yeah, it was such a good movie. Everybody was standing in my showing. Everyone was clapping. Everyone was cheering. It was really good.
The same here. On a side note, I'm really glad a lot of theaters now are including a lot of these anime movies, even if it's just a one night thing.
Yeah, people come all dressed up. It's cool.
Yes, it's a big thing. Like another one that's been going on for a couple of years that I'm excited for the next coming year is the Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel arc. They made it into a 3-movie series. The second one came out earlier this year. The third one's coming out next year. So I'm really excited for that one. So I'm just really happy they're giving American audiences a chance to see these movies on the big screen, the way they were originally intended to be done. I hope it gets more mainstream, that it's not just a one night thing. They can do maybe a month-long engagement or longer. But that I'm just super happy that they're doing stuff like this. It's so cool that in the last few years that this has grown by leaps and bounds. So anime culture, nerd culture, you guys are doing a fantastic job getting the word out there. Keep it up. Keep supporting official releases, because that is not possible if we do not do that. So,
exactly.
Give yourselves a round of applause for the steps we've taken and stuff like this. So what about you? What was let's try and get that bad taste out of your mouth. And what was your biggest or your first big surprise of this past year?
So my number 5 for my top 5 biggest pleasant surprises in 2019 is The Lion King 2019.
Oh yeah, this one got a lot of people excited for it.
There was a lot of controversy as well. A lot of people.
Yes.
Geez, man, this was split right down the middle as far as the reviews that I saw. And I almost let it taint me. I almost let all these negative reviews be like, maybe I'll just wait. But I'm glad that I went to go see it, because a lot of people were saying that it wasn't original, that it wasn't this, it wasn't that it was a shot-for-shot remake. And that really disappointed me when I read all of this. But then when I saw it, that couldn't be further from the truth, because it was very disingenuous for these people to say that, because they apparently, from what the people wanted to see, was they wanted to see a different take on The Lion King. And that if that were to have happened, that there would have been so many more critiques saying they should have just stuck with it. Why are they trying to reinvent it? And I kind of am in agreement with that. Don't do that. Don't change the entire story around. I mean, for goodness sake, The Lion King is based off of Hamlet. What more could you really change of the story? One of the
most famous plays to have ever been written by one of the most famous playwrights to ever exist.
Exactly. Just keep it the way that it is. I was fine with it being almost, and it's almost a shot-for-shot remake. There's new songs. There's new things in there. There's little jokes and jabs, and Seth Rogen does his own thing. He still can't sing for S.
It's Seth Rogen.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
When you're main calling card is your laugh, you're in big trouble.
Dude, yeah, his singing was so bad. And geez, who played? He's a really good singer from what I saw. Timon was Billy Eichner.
Yes.
Jeez, dude, his voice and his singing was so nice. It really did overpower Seth Rogen's singing. I'll tell you that much for sure. Because when I was hearing that, I was like, who is that angelic voice? I looked it up. I was like, oh, Billy Eichner. That's cool. And then I looked up some other things that he did. So I was like, wow, that's really interesting. He sings very nice. So yeah, I liked that. It was its own thing. I really think that it was its own thing. It did what it tried to accomplish. What's his name? Favreau is really doing a lot of good things in 2019. Jesus Christ.
Absolutely, yes.
God, he needs more recognition if he's not getting enough of it already. He is freaking... Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look at the work he's done in the last decade.
Jesus Christ.
He brought Iron Man to the big screen.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought that couldn't be done. And he closed... Well, Iron Man 3 is a bit of a give and take kind of movie. A lot of people are on the fence about that one. But
yeah.
I thought it was a pretty good ending for that one.
I'm one of the few people that really enjoy Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with the criticisms on it, but it is still a good closure for the Iron Man series. But yeah, Favreau, he's brought us so much stuff in the last decade and then some. Because like one of the new Christmas classics is Elf, and that's by him.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
it's like, how can you not give him credit where it's due?
He basically started off with Elf, relaunched with Iron Man. Chef is an amazing movie. Lion King, Jungle Book, the Avengers. I mean, I think co-produced a lot of those. Spider-Man: Far From Home. You know, Avengers Endgame. He was on there as well. I mean, he's doing so much. And the Mandalorian. How could we forget?
Yes.
He created the Mandalorian. And,
Yes,
you know, that's
absolutely.
something that we'll be talking about later on in future episodes. But, geez, man, he's just doing so many good things. So,
Yes.
for people to be like, the Lion King sucked, meh, I'm like, shut your mouth, bro. Don't be disrespecting Jon Favreau like that, you punks.
And then let's quickly talk about the fact that they brought back James Earl Jones.
Oh, my
the voice of
gosh, dude. He
Mufasa. That
sounded
was
so
freaking awesome.
delightful, man.
And this one, it actually played a lot better because he's 20 years older now
Right.
than he was then 27 years older, I
Right,
think, than when he recorded the original Lion King. And it shows, but in a very good way, because it shows like a king that's been ruling for a very long time.
Yes.
Someone who is wise well beyond his years and has the experience to do that.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to hear the first time I heard Mufasa, James Earl Jones' Mufasa again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a shame that I can't remember the actress's name that played Sarabi originally, Mufasa's wife and Simba's mother. Unfortunately for her, she passed away in the 90s to cancer, so they weren't able to get her back. But it would have been really cool to see them together again as a duo, because they were originally husband and wife in Coming to America as the King of Queen of Zamunda.
I remember that.
And then they were King of Queen of Africa in the Pride Lands. And I'm like, man, that's such an awesome duo. And they play so well off each other.
That would have been really awesome if they were able to do that.
Yeah, the Lion King, I haven't seen it yet. Again, I don't see a lot of movies.
Okay.
And I have heard a lot of the criticisms. And I do agree with some of the criticisms about the Disney live action remakes not taking chances on trying new things. Like Aladdin. Aladdin was all right. I do feel, because the main thing I really would have liked to see is if they took that chance, because Will Smith did good as the genie. All the actors were really done, with the exception of Jafar. I couldn't see the guy that played him being a bad guy.
I didn't like Jafar at all in that one.
Yeah, he seemed a little wooden, and I don't know if it was because they didn't allow him to kind of overact as a villain would, but he seemed very stiff. That whole Bollywood ending credit scene, it's like, why couldn't they do that? That would have been so cool to see.
Yeah.
But that's a side point there. that's a personal opinion on my part. But the Lion King, I will eventually get around to seeing it. When it hits Disney Plus, I am definitely going to watch it.
Oh yeah, dude. So what's yours? What's your next one?
My next one is the game River City Girls.
River City Girls. What's this?
Yeah. Now this is a 2D side-scrolling beat 'em up that's very reminiscent of like Double Dragon, Final Fight, ones that you used to see a lot on like the old NES.
Oh, okay.
And this was developed by WayForward and Arc Systems. Arc Systems being the game studio that developed the really high-profile 2D fighters of Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue, Dragon Ball Fighters.
Wow,
so they have a lot
looks good.
Yeah. And what was surprising about this one was it kind of revitalized the River City series, because it started as River City Riot on the NES, and then you get spin-offs like River City Dodgeball and various ones like that followed the same formula, the side-scrolling beat 'em up. But this one threw a curveball by having you play as the original River City Riot characters' girlfriends.
Okay.
The characters get kidnapped and they go around the city trying to rescue their boyfriends. Now, what was very surprising is that Arc System incorporated a lot of the custom combos that a player can make from their fighting games and put it into side-scrolling beat 'em up, which was very cool. So you can play around and create your own combos. As your character levels up, you learn new moves. You can buy new moves and extend combos. If you have two players at the same time, they can get some really crazy stuff going. So there's a lot of depth to the combat system, which is very surprising.
It looks nice.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. It's got these really like old school looking graphics, like if it's on the Super Nintendo towards the end of the Super Nintendo life.
Yeah.
It's got like really good sprite work, good color schemes. It has a mix of like comic book style cutscenes with, you know, animated anime style scenes when they introduce the bosses, and the comedy is funny because it starts off with the girls in detention, and one of them's all passed out on her desk. It's like, when did they start adding homework to detention? And she's like, here lies Misako, killed by numbers. I'm like, that's hilarious. It's got good replayability. It's fantastic as a solo player. It's meant for 2-player, but the solo player works just as well. They got a lot of like YouTubers and indie game voice actors to voice a lot of the characters.
Wow, so, that's cool.
Yeah, like you'll go into the shop and you'll hear Aaron Hansen and Dan Avidan from Game Grumps.
Right. Very nice.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Very fun to play. And it was just very surprising because it came out of nowhere and it started, you know, people started playing it. And I was expecting just a simple indie game, and it turned out to be so much more. So I highly recommend it to anyone that's a fan of those types. Even if you're not, try it out.
That seemed like something I would definitely try.
Yeah, it's extremely fun. So that was my second pleasant surprise of 2019. How about yours? 'Cause you seem to be on a good smooth now, getting that pleasantry out of your system.
Well, my next one, my number 4 would be Spider-Man: Far From Home. This movie really was a pleasant surprise for me, mainly because of the technologies and the way that they did Mysterio. Geez, man. So when we first saw the trailer, when the trailer first came out, true fans were like, yeah, okay. Like, you know, it's Mysterio. He's not a freaking good guy. Like, who really is going to believe that? You know, especially with his whole background of, you know, he's from another Earth and everything else. And that kind of threw us for a loop. We were like, oh, wow, they're going to open up the multiverse in this movie. I was all for that. But of course, him being the master of manipulation, that wasn't really so. Spoiler alert. However, the way that they did Mysterio, I appreciate so much, because if you're familiar with the character, you know that in the comics, he first started off as like a failed magician, right? He was so obsessed with his show, his magic show. He was really into magic, into illusionist work, and he really liked the spotlight. Okay. And Spider-Man, him being, you know, who he is, inspired Mysterio to do more with his illusion. So he would start going, he was inspired to do more, kind of like with the storyline that with Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man. He kind of lost it trying to compete with Spider-Man, to the point where he kind of killed somebody. I believe he killed somebody in the comics, and to the point where, you know, obviously he took his tricks too far. Spider-Man had to stop him, and he became it tainted his image, and so he got very upset at that. So that's just a little background of the original Mysterio, and a lot of his original works were just smoke and mirrors. You just literally smoke and mirrors back then, because that's all you had in the 1960s. So they modernized him, as you can imagine, in 2019. So a lot of his illusions are holograms. A lot of his illusions are mentalism, freaking playing to people's insecurities, to the social norms, to spying, just regular spying on Peter Parker on his trip to Italy. And so I really appreciated that. His master illusions using Tony Stark's drones, it was just so fascinating to see that you can combine technology. You can still have a smoke and mirrors type storyline, or villain rather, and it looks so amazing. I mean, this the fact that they used this technology of the holograms in 2019 was just fascinating. It was such a kind of like how they did in Doctor Strange, where we really used our technology to really dive into the creativity of comics. With comics, you can draw anything. You can really visualize almost anything. You can put it on paper. But obviously it was a lot harder to do that with CGI. Man, we are in a sweet spot right now. We are in a sweet spot because it's not hallucinations. The illusions that we're seeing in this movie, fantastic. So rich. Seeing, have you seen it?
I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen all of it yet.
Oh, okay.
But I do agree. I've seen the elemental illusions that he did throughout the movie, and they looked really good. And this is what CGI should be used to do, is something that practical effects can't do.
Right.
Like they can do something to a point, but CGI should be used to embellish it, and that's exactly what they're doing here.
Absolutely. To kind of build up to everything with his Peter Tingle, his spider sense being renamed Peter Tingle, and having that
so nasty.
And having that the saving grace of this movie was such a pleasant surprise. I really, really enjoyed it, and seeing J.K. Simmons come back and reprise his role as J. Jonah Jameson, as kind of like an Alex Jones type reporter now, completely losing his mind towards conspiracies. Golly, man, that we didn't ask for that, but we got it, and I'm so happy that we have it. Man, that was such a nice thing.
Simmons was like bred to play that role, much like a lot of the roles he plays.
Yeah,
he was bred to play JJ, and I'm so glad they brought him back, which is kind of cool. Because this movie came out after Into the Spider-Verse, and like you said before, it hinted at the whole multiverse kind of thing. So it's kind of like, maybe the Tobey Maguire movies did happen in an alternate universe. And it's just showing that no matter what universe he's in, JJ is always going to be that bastard with some form of media outlet.
Right, exactly. I mean, in the Spider-Man PS4 game, he has a podcast.
Yes, that is cool.
It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's like he is now podcasting instead of being on print, which is like that's a good way to bring him into modern day.
It's freaking amazing. I'm so happy with what they're doing with him. So that was a pleasant surprise for me. All right, so what is your next big pleasant surprise of 2019?
So my next big one, this one just in the last week or two, was the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer.
Dude, yes. That's going to be so sick.
Last September, they announced that they were finally making another Ghostbusters movie, and that it was going to bring back the original cast. Now, we didn't have a lot of information as to what it was going to be, but they finally gave us our first trailer of the movie coming out just next summer, so this is very close to coming out. Now, what was super exciting about this is it's actually a continuation of the original Ghostbusters that came out in the 80s. So we have the surviving cast members of Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, Bill Murray, Sigourney Weaver, Annie Potts. They're all coming back and reprising their roles to what they were back in 1989. I guess we can say the Ghostbusters game that came out in 2009, 6? I forget, around that time. So the trailer shows I'm just assuming this because oh my gosh, I can't remember his name now.
Whose name?
And I'm gonna kick myself. The guy that played Egon Spengler.
Oh,
Harold Ramis.
Yes, Harold Ramis.
Harold Ramis passed away about 7 years ago, and it was very unfortunate because he was a comedic genius.
Yeah, to say the least, absolutely.
But from what it seems, is that Egon had a family, and his grandkids are moving to a farm he had in the middle of nowhere, and they find his secret basement where he was developing new ghost busting equipment.
Right.
And it seems like these kids are going to be the next generation. They're going to have the original Ghostbusters come back and kind of train them, and it looks super cool. Now, I know the trailer sparked a lot of controversy because it seemed to have completely wiped out the 2016 version of Ghostbusters, which you can take it either way. Because I think about a year or two ago, not Ivan Reitman, his son, came out and said that it's not a reboot. The 2016 wasn't a reboot; it's an alternate telling. So it's kind of like there's like a multiverse thing going on with the Ghostbuster world, and I can kind of see that.
And the actors and the directors flat out said, as they were alienating, so much of the part as well, as they do with these type of things. That was part of the controversy back in the day when the 2016 one came out. Oh, it's not for the people that watch the original Ghostbusters. This is our telling of it. We have nothing to do with this one. That they actually bragged about that at some point. So this is like, so don't get mad if now, now that we're really showing that, that movie had nothing to do with this one, they shouldn't be getting mad because they're the ones that said it in the first place.
Right, exactly. So I'm super excited for this one because this is technically it's going to be Ghostbusters 3. I'm calling it Ghostbusters 4 because the Ghostbusters video game is Ghostbusters 3.
Right.
Because if you haven't played that one,
no, I haven't.
You should pick it up. They just did the remaster version back in October.
Okay.
So definitely pick it up. It's written by Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis.
Wow. Bro.
Yeah, they got the majority of the original cast to come back, with the exception of Rick Moranis. They wanted him to come back, but he's adamant on staying retired.
Okay.
And unfortunately, Sigourney Weaver was offered to come back, but she declined at first, and when she wanted to, it was already too late. Development was already too far ahead. So those are the only two that didn't come back. But it's fantastic. It's a very good story, and in a lot of fans' eyes, it's Ghostbusters 3. So this is probably going to be Ghostbusters 4, 20, 30 years after that. But I'm extremely excited to see this next summer when it comes out. And I hope it revitalizes the series. Because one of the things I would really like to see is a modern day take of the Extreme Ghostbusters. I don't know if you...
No, I haven't even heard.
Yeah, the Extreme Ghostbusters started as a one season.
Oh, never mind.
Okay.
I remember this.
Me and my brother absolutely enjoyed it. It was really cool. They took a lot of interesting liberties with the ghosts and stuff. And I would like to see this kind of evolve into an Extreme Ghostbusters kind of thing.
That'd be neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not, right?
Right.
They
Because the
could.
Ghostbusters is a good franchise. It's got, since the movies came out, you've had the cartoon series, you've had the comic books expand on the lore, and just like what we talked about with the Men in Black, there's a lot of material to do.
Mm-hmm.
So they can easily work on stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping this one does well when it comes out.
Yeah. It could. Definitely.
Yeah. But that was my next one for the biggest surprise of 2019.
Okay. Well, my next one is Avengers Endgame. So I know this is the one that I ended on, my most disappointed one of 2019, but Avengers Endgame was still a pleasant surprise. It had tied everything up in a neat little bow. It was really, really nice to have an ending to what started it all, essentially. Iron Man 2008. Geez, man, the action, that, and speaking of feminism now, that scene where all of those female Avengers kind of came together for their little glory shot. As corny and cheesy as it was, bro, I felt like clapping. I was like, dude, that's my girls. What? I was like, dang, this is a powerful imagery right here. It was really, really neat, man. Spider-Man coming back, the whole... God, I can go on forever just to nitpick everything that really made me happy about this movie, but I couldn't, because everything was just perfect except for Hulk. Everything else was just fantastic. I even liked Fat Thor. He was awesome, and the symbolism that kind of was portrayed with his depression was powerful. It was something that Jon Favreau kind of started out with in Iron Man. In Iron Man 3, it kind of brought in mental health in the whole Avengers in the Avengers franchise, because Tony Stark had to deal with PTSD and his overwhelming anxiety attacks. And my God, if that isn't one of the most accurate portrayals of an anxiety attack in Iron Man 3, I don't know what is. Whenever I watch Iron Man 3 and he's having those anxiety attacks, when he just falls to the ground and grabs the snow and pats it on his face, and still kind of looks up into the stars as if he's lost, like, Jesus Christ, like I'm dying right now. That is powerful. That is how it feels. You feel lost and you feel out of control in the chaos of your own mind. And then to have Thor, a god, a mythos god, going through depression. Right.
It really touched on how everyone tries to cope with things differently.
Yeah.
You had Tony essentially move on and start his own family.
Yeah.
You had on the end of the spectrum, you had Thor, try to drown his sorrows in beer.
Yeah.
And his physique showed it.
Yeah.
But to that credit, it gave people like us that have the dad bod a chance to be a superhero.
Right. Exactly.
Is now for like $35 you can make a Thor costume.
Absolutely.
A bathrobe, PJs, and a white T-shirt, and you're done.
And you got to be careful, because you could either look like Thor or the Big Lebowski. So
hey, both are awesome.
Both are very awesome. Right.
One you get to wield a styrofoam hammer. The other you get to wield a White Russian.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Why not both?
Why is the dude not suitable to wield Mjolnir? Right.
Right. Well, because he ends up being Obadiah Stane later on and being a villain.
Splitting hairs, multiverse theory.
Right. So yeah, I won't go too long on Avengers Endgame, just because I could. Fantastic, amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. It's just amazing. If you haven't seen it, do yourself the favor and try to ignore the Hulk parts.
I don't know. Maybe you can do one of your fan edits and just take them all out.
Right. Maybe.
But,
that's going to be hard, since he plays a major part of that movie.
Well, splitting hairs.
Multiverse theory. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and try to take note of the book ending too. You have the end of the first Iron Man movie. His last words are, "I am Iron Man," and his last words in this one are, "I am Iron Man."
Yeah.
So
rest in peace.
Take that to heart. That it was a 12-year journey that we probably won't see for many, many years to come.
Yeah, exactly.
I know Phase 4 is a couple of years away, but I doubt it's going to hold a candle to.
No,
to what
and it's even preparing itself. It's already showing itself that it's going to be a very short saga. So,
yeah.
All right, so your turn, Mike.
All right, so my next one. I'll check my notes here. All right, so this one is two wrapped in one.
Okay.
The first one was the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah. So Resident Evil 2 is heralded as one of the best Resident Evil games from the original series on the PlayStation.
Right.
Because they took the survival horror from the first Resident Evil and they expanded on it, whereas in first Resident Evil you're stuck in just the mansion the entire game, but in this one you're in the streets of Raccoon City. It's debatable though, because really the game takes place in just the police station of Raccoon City and the the Umbrella Corps laboratory, but it still takes place in Raccoon City.
Okay.
It had two campaigns which could be beaten in any order, and that did change a little bit of the other playthrough, and had multiple endings as old Resident Evil games used to have.
Mm-hmm.
But the remake not only updated the graphics and the gameplay, kind of revitalized the survival horror aspect of Resident Evil, which a lot of people, myself included, said was waning in Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, and 6. Because 7 did the whole first-person thing, and it was a really creepy game. This one went back to the whole over-the-shoulder third-person kind of thing. It brought back the zombies. The zombie AI is terrifying. The tyrant is horrifying as well, because he pops up and he's not scripted anymore after his initial encounter. He'll pop up at any time. It's just a fantastic game all around. It looks great. It sounds great. You have to play it with headphones on because it uses the what's it called? ISO sound, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed so that when you're wearing headphones or you're playing with surround sound, everything can be heard in the direction that it's meant to be heard in.
Kind of like 3D.
You have to, yes, you
3D
have
sound.
to give it.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to give it a try. It's a very unique game.
Yeah, I've heard so much about this game. I saw a lot of gameplay. I try not to spoil any of because I haven't played the original, but geez, it looks so good. I saw a lot of reviews just absolutely raving about it. So, geez, no surprise that it's on your list here.
Yeah, it's definitely up for Game of the Year on some list, and for good reason. Now,
Nice.
The second part to this is this was just announced recently at the Video Game Awards, and it was the teaser trailer for Resident Evil 3 remake.
Ooh.
Now, they're using the same game engine, so it looks just as good. But what's really surprising is how short of a time it's taking them to come out, because it's coming out in April next year.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and people were like, when Resident Evil 2 came out earlier this year, they're like, oh man, we have to see Resident Evil 3. And we were thinking it's going to take a few years for it, but no, it's just a year and a half.
Well,
Not even a year and a half. And so they showed the trailer. The only thing they didn't reveal, and I'm kind of glad they didn't, was the Nemesis, because the Nemesis has been hailed as one of the best boss villains in the entire series. Have you ever played the original Resident Evil 3?
No, never.
Okay. Try it. It's very fun. But the Nemesis was like the tyrant in the Resident Evil 2 remake back then, because he wasn't always he was scripted, but it wasn't like, oh, I'll just leave the area and he can't come get me. No, he'll chase after you, and it was like people freaked out when that happened.
Dude, I love this. It looks so creepy. I love it.
Yeah,
looks nice.
So cool. So I'm extremely excited for that one, because Resident Evil 3 was my introduction to the series. That was the first game that I had a chance to play. A friend of mine and I rented it, and I stayed like the weekend at his house, and we beat it. It implemented like those split decision choices, where at certain points you had a few seconds to make a choice, and it would actually alter the way the game went.
Yeah.
So I had never seen that before. It was really, really cool. And I want to see how they implement that in the remake, because that's going to be super exciting when it happens.
Very nice. No, I'm excited just from what I'm reading about this, from what you're saying. This is going to be really neat, and so fast too. From just with the Resident Evil remake 2 that came out earlier this year in January, and then just a little after a year we're getting RE3. And I think because of how fast because of the engine being the same, I think that's why it's so fast.
Yeah, I agree, because the engine, they're using the same engine. It's kind of like what they did with Majora's Mask on the 64.
Yeah.
They reused a lot of assets, so they didn't have a lot to a lot of new stuff that they needed to make. But super excited for that one.
So my next one is something that I did not expect for me to have on this list. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. This, I was gonna say Steve Rogers. What the hell's wrong with me? The Fred Rogers.
Get your mind out of Marvel, dude.
I know. The Fred Rogers, kind of like a biopic, kind of, not really. But it's a movie based off of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So I came across this movie. I saw it. I wanted to see it, but it was by no means on my must-see list. And so for this to be on my list right now is kind of a huge deal because we kind of saw it by accident. We were going on a date night, Lisbeth and I. So we were going to go see Knives Out, which was getting seriously great reviews.
Yeah.
And however, it was so good that it was sold out. So we went to Alamo Drafthouse, went to go see Knives Out. It was sold out. They're like, well, there's Mr. Rogers. There's this Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And we're like, oh, I was like, I guess. Like, I was kind of planning on something, when you're planning on something else for a while, and then you're just kind of like, okay, sure. Yeah, I was going to see it anyway.
Depleted, but
yeah, like I was going to see it anyway, but I mean, let's go for it. Mike, I cried, I think, twice in this movie. And it wasn't until we got back to the car where I really just started bawling.
Oh, man.
This movie is a must-see because it does something to your soul. It really does. It really reminds you of what really is important in life. And I think people forget sometimes how precious life is, how important kindness is, how important children are, and how we're not really taking care of them as much as we're supposed to these days, I believe. Especially with technology being how, just so ubiquitous. There's a lot of things that we need to be talking to our kids about that we're not anymore. We're kind of just letting the technology teach them. And it doesn't have the same effect as if it was a human being teaching you, talking with you, being tactile with you, having a heart to heart, really understanding. And I know this kind of sounds a little bit broad, but I really don't want to spoil any parts of the movie just because it's so freaking good. It's about a reporter doing an expose, basically, and this reporter is infamous for doing just slander pieces, just complete crapping on whoever he interviews. So he kind of has this reputation that he's in Pittsburgh, I believe, or was it based in Pittsburgh? I believe so, in Pennsylvania. And so the fact that Mr. Rogers agreed to this, everyone was like, what are you doing? No, do not give this guy the time of day. And Mr. Rogers does. And every so often you get Mr. Rogers' manager talking to this guy like, I'm watching you. Don't ruin this guy's life. To the point where one time the reporter asks the manager, like, why is he doing this? Like, why does he still want to talk to me? I'm done. I'm done with my piece. And the manager at one point says, he likes people like you. And that really sunk in with, I think, everybody, the entire audience, with him. And he's like, people like me, and there was another time with, Mr. Rogers and this guy is just having a lunch together. And he asks him, like, why me? Why people that are miserable? And I won't spoil it, but the answer that he gives him is very, very wholesome. It's very wholesome because it teaches you that, no, the people are just people. we shouldn't be judging people solely on their actions, because everybody has experiences and their future is yet to be determined, depending on what you believe or not. So it was very, very wholesome. I really encourage everybody to watch it, because it's just one of those things where it can teach you so much, even though we pretty much know everything, or we should know everything that it is to be a good person. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
There's one movie I do want to watch, but I know it's going to hit me in the feels.
Yeah, it definitely will.
Yeah, and I don't like doing that in public, because when it does, I usually do ugly crying, and I don't want to do that in front of other people.
Yeah.
I'm not much to look at to begin with, so I don't want to scare them away.
You don't want to swipe your mascara around there.
Right.
No, but definitely give it a watch in
Mr.
private
Rogers
if you'd like.
was someone that really deserved to have a movie like this come out to honor him, because he was a really great man. I mean, you look at his old interviews. And you go back and
I know
watch
his
clips
old
from his
interviews
show.
were even then so wholesome.
Yes. He was one of the first people to introduce the concept of trying to talk to kids about death, because he did the special on like the assassination of JFK,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and the way he did it was so well done that a kid can understand it. Another one would be like Sesame Street. When a cast member passed away, they had like Big Bird find out about it, but Mr. Rogers really understood that a kid is a person and shouldn't be talked down to like a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because he even says it at some point, like, don't you remember how it was when you were a child? And a lot of us we push those memories like out, because sometimes they are very unpleasant.
Yes.
And so part of that is making those feelings, those times, not so unpleasant and more understanding, because you're still a human being when you're a kid.
Yeah.
You're still going through some tough stuff. So it's better to be able to experience it in a positive way if you can, rather than just kind of shoving that into a dark corner and just never thinking about it again.
Yeah. So I will definitely watch that movie, but I need to make sure I have a full box of tissue paper handy.
Yeah. And it's not really sad, it's not a sad movie at all. It's not like you're going to be depressed afterwards. It's just so
it just
good.
resonates with you.
Yeah. It's just a good movie where you're like, damn, I'm going to do something nice today. You know what I mean? It's one of those movies. So
That's
definitely
awesome.
check it out.
Very, very inspirational sounding.
Yes. What's next on your list?
All right. So the last one on my list is probably no surprise to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's The Mandalorian.
Nice. Heck yeah.
So The Mandalorian is one of Disney Plus's original shows that just that debuted when their streaming service launched.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a very big deal for the Star Wars fans and community, because we haven't had a TV special, a live-action TV special, in a very long time. The last time I remember it was the Ewok movies, and not a lot of people remember them because
I don't.
Yeah, exactly. They were like aimed at kids and very strange to watch. But this one, again, like we mentioned before, it was created by Jon Favreau. He wrote several of the episodes, directed a few of them. They worked very heavily with trying to make sure that because this is a canon series, they wanted to make sure that it tied in.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
With the series, because this takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and about 25 or so years before The Force Awakens. So it's after the fall of the Empire, before the rise of the New Order, or the First Order, and it doesn't deal with characters from the movies, at least the ones that I've seen. I'm still like 2 or 3 episodes behind. But people like Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, they're not in this. This follows
Oh yeah.
a bounty hunter who has no name. He's just called the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
He is tasked with picking up an asset that turns out to be everyone's favorite internet meme.
Right.
And his journey to try and protect this person from those that would try to do it harm.
Yeah, because that thing doesn't even have a name either. It's just been dubbed by the internet Baby Yoda.
Yeah. And in the story, it's just called The Child.
Mm-hmm.
But it touches on like the Bounty Hunters Guild and the Mandalorian culture, which hasn't really been touched up on, with the exception of like the Clone Wars TV series. It talks about Mandalore, but they never talk about the Bounty Hunters Guild and how that works. They show what happens to people that were fighting on both sides of the Civil War in the galaxy. The acting is fantastic.
So good, man.
Production values on this is amazing. They threw not as much money per episode as Game of Thrones did, but they threw a considerable amount of money per episode.
Yes.
We're talking millions and millions of dollars thrown
and
into
it shows.
episode. It
definitely
shows. And you can eat, if you're a fan of like old westerns, you definitely pick up the inspiration.
Oh man, that definitely has such an amazing feel.
Yeah,
like an
the
old western
Mandalorian
feel.
is easily based off of Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name. He's just a sellsword or a gun for hire, and he has like this very ambiguous morality compass. You want to cheer for him, but the things he does is like, I don't know if that's what I should be cheering for. But it's very well done. The first season just took off, took off running. The second season was already greenlit, and they're already making it.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's going to come out, but very excited for that. And they've already said that if this TV series does really well, they might actually make a Mandalorian feature film.
Man, I'm so
kind of
stoked.
iffy on that because, I mean, we look at Han Solo. That's a movie that came out earlier this year that was a big disappointment.
Yeah, it was.
Because, they go into the backstory of someone you didn't really need to know the backstory of.
That's very true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. We didn't need to know what Han Solo did before he became the Han Solo we know.
Yeah.
They didn't need to do that. Yeah, who knows? But the Mandalorian right now is definitely a must-watch for anyone that can watch it on Disney Plus. Give it a look. Most likely will not be disappointed. I can't say for sure you won't be disappointed because everyone has their own.
Yeah, and it's for anybody and everybody. I mean, I wasn't too familiar with the Star Wars franchise. I stopped after, so I've seen my first Star Wars movie was 4, and then I saw 5. I didn't see 6. I haven't seen the first 3, which I know, shame on me. But this show it eases you in. If you don't know anything about Star Wars, it eases you into a very engaging story, to the point where you do want to learn more about the Empire, Whitefell, Imperial, the Emperor. Oh, it's so fascinating. You start to learn things here and there, and then you start learning more about the backstory. Oh, I want to know more about this. I want to know more about that. What are those ships that are flying there? Why are they such good shots? It's awesome. I love.
Yeah, it's not heavy-handed in its exposition.
Right.
It's like, okay, this is the thing. You're kind of seeing this from this point of view. If you know it, great. If not, great. You don't need to know it.
Right.
I mean, most people know that the guys in the white armor are stormtroopers. They're bad guys.
They're bad guys? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, why would you wear white after Labor Day? Come on.
Right. Evil things.
But yeah, it's like they don't dumb it down to take time out of the episode to explain, oh, those are stormtroopers. Those are those are former Imperial troopers, and yeah, they don't do that.
They don't Hellboy it up. That's good.
Yeah, it's got a very nice flow to it, and it's very easy to binge. Because I started about when 4 or 5 episodes were already released, so I was able to watch some of them back to back. Because they're not doing the Netflix thing where they release the entire season all at once, so you can watch it all in a single day. They're doing the weekly episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of like that because it gives you something to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we grew up watching TV. We had to wait until Friday or Saturday for the next episode to come out and catch up on it. So I really like that they're going back to the more traditional release schedule of episodes.
Yeah, I like it too. I'm partial to it too.
Yeah. But there is that downside. It's like, damn, I have to wait a whole week to find out what happens next.
Right, exactly.
That was my biggest and last surprise for 2019.
Okay, solid list. Definitely solid list. I like it.
Thank you.
Well, my last biggest surprise for 2019 is the Joker, or just Joker.
Oh yeah.
This movie. Oh, it's another movie that I will flat out say that it's just a must see. You don't need any background in comic books or video games or movies or anything else like that. It's a must see because of the message behind it. And I know that's it sounds kind of weird, but unless you've seen it, the message behind this movie is important for, I guess, mental health reasons.
Yes.
It's a call to action for mental health, the way that we treat mental health, the way that we treat low-income families, people themselves. Mm-hmm. It's something. It's a mirror. It's a mirror that reflects society back onto itself. That some people probably didn't even notice, probably don't like to see. It's an ugly image. And it's something that everybody needs to see. And I'm not trying to get political. It's just, it's cathartic. It's cathartic to see because sometimes you forget. Again, back to, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's a good contrast because A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is everything good with the world and Joker is everything bad.
Yes.
And it's something that we need to see. We need to see both, to keep an objective mind. And so this movie is about Arthur Fleck. It's about this man that is plagued with an illness, with a disorder. And it's his story of dealing with it, dealing with his trials and tribulations. And golly, man, it is so sinister. It is so fascinating. And the end of the movie, it just leaves you with your jaw agape. It's so good because you see. So one of the scenes that we see in the trailer is something that hits home, particularly with me because of my depression. I have depression and I have general anxiety disorder, and those I'd say are mild in the full spectrum of mental disorders. I'm glad I don't have, schizophrenia or any of the major other types. But one of the things that were said in the trailer that, golly, made me tear up in the movie as well, is seeing his notebook. And the notebook says something really powerful that shows, as he's writing, his handwriting is a lot neater when he's starting to write, and as he's finishing the sentence, it kind of looks chaotic, similar to that of a person going through like a schizophrenic episode, where their mind is kind of losing its grasp of reality. And so this quote is, "The worst part of having a mental illness is people expect you to behave as if you don't." And that got me, man. That got me. That made me tear up. And I almost broke down crying because it's very true. More so for the people that have those type of disorders that can't get a hold of it. I go through my fits of depression and anxiety. I become lost, but luckily I always find my way back. There are some people that don't.
Yeah,
and
that's very unfortunate and sad. There's a lot of people that don't, and it's not just with mental disorders too. It can be physical disorders.
Absolutely. Yes.
We have people that can't walk or talk, and they're expected to behave like they're every other person in normal society, and that's very, very sad. We both of us have been on the receiving end on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, like I keep saying, it's an important message to hear, because a lot of us can sometimes forget. We sometimes forget. We kind of expect people to do things, like one of the things they showed in the trailer is this guy just laughing on a city bus. He can't stop laughing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, he's over here trying to make a kid laugh. Is the best way that he could. He's probably just trying to be nice to a child. And the mother of that child looks at him like he's a freak and just, berates him and says, don't talk to my child. And, that is a part of society that kind of, it's a true reflection of itself. We see someone trying to do good. We see trying to make the best out of their situation. And here comes someone in society just cutting it down. And it's something that happens every single day. Yeah.
And it's not apparent as it needs to be.
Right.
And
exactly.
that is very unfortunate. And the Joker movie really brought it to light on something like that. So I hope that the film will actually be used in case studies for people learning about disorders, for therapists and psychiatrists from in the coming years, because it is it's done very well to portray the effects on a person's life that are affected by something beyond their control.
Mm-hmm. And the inability is for people to really empathize. Right.
Yes.
There's a scene in the movie that unfortunately I wish can say is a hyperbole, but there's a scene in the movie where he just kind of looks at the therapist and he says, "You're not even listening to me. You keep asking how I am. You keep asking if I have bad days. Every day that I have is a bad day." It's true. Like we kind of get into this repetition of expectation, and it's not like that all the time. Mm-hmm. So no, I mean, I know I kind of edited it on a weird note, but hey, if I'm going to put, which one really outshined everything, I do have to put Joker on the number one. This was my highlight of the year. This movie, man, this movie really struck a chord with me, struck a chord with a lot of people, and is something that everybody really needs to see. It's fascinating.
Critics, fans, yeah. The biggest thing for me was Joaquin Phoenix. When they announced it, I was like, I am not sure about this, but man, he just knocked it out of the park.
He really did. And that laugh too, instantly became iconic.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen it, please do watch it a couple times. Watch it as a reminder to be kind. At the end of the day, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, that movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and Joker kind of leaves you walking away with the same message. Be kind. Really be kind to people, because we never really know the battles that people are facing on a day-to-day.
Yes, absolutely. Especially during this time of year. The holidays are very stressful for a lot of people, and it's the time of year where there's a lot of anxiety and depression attacks and everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Highest suicide rate is around this time of year.
100%.
Yes. So, yeah, absolutely. Be kind to people. Try to put yourselves in their shoes, and try not to judge them. It's tough to say that and live by it, because we're so quick to judge people based on just a single glance or a simple encounter without getting to know them. But that's something society has a predisposition of doing, and it's something that is very detrimental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I really hope people see the message. I know it's hard, especially with a name like Joker. People probably don't see past the title screen. Please try to see this three-dimensionally. It's not just about a character named Joker. It's really not. Right. People, and that's one of its faults. A lot of people said that they shouldn't even have included the Wayne family in here. They shouldn't have even included Bruce Wayne in the movie, and I kind of agree to an extent. I'm not going to die on this hill. If you were to make this movie about, let's say that it wasn't called Joker, if you were to ask me if it still had the same potency, I would say yes. Probably because I'm a little bit biased. I have knowledge of, mental illness, of psychotherapy, of psychology. It would have been great no matter what. But the fact that this takes place in a DC universe just ups the ante. It's fantastic. It's just a little bit of paprika in your dish. So
right.
So yeah, definitely go ahead and see it. And that's been my list. Thank you. Thank you.
So that was mine too. That was a fantastic, very emotional list.
Very emotional, bro.
Yeah,
definitely.
I came in here. It's like, okay, I evaluated this. Now you poured your soul.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we are definitely looking forward to what you guys have to say in the comments. Please leave us whatever you feel. Leave us your thoughts about whatever choices that we had to say. Give us your comments about that. Give us your list of 5 top things of your surprises in 2019. We'd love to hear it.
Yes, absolutely. If we forgot anything, which we probably did, because 5 is a very small number for an entire year of happenings.
Right, exactly.
Also submit any suggestions on topics and stuff you want us to discuss.
Yeah.
Give us some ideas. As a reminder, today's episode was that. It was a listener suggestion, and we decided to go with that because it sounded really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we hope you found it interesting. Thank you for this opportunity at letting us do something that we've been planning for years about. I mean, I know this is only episode 2, but hey, we're hoping to bring this on for a long time to come.
Exactly.
So keep on supporting us. Remember us to like and subscribe. Tell your friends, share the links, do what you got to do, hold people ransom. No, maybe not that one. Try to keep it legal. Right. Yeah. We don't want to do another, raid Area 51 Facebook page. Don't do that.
But we will.
We don't, if it comes to that, we'll do that. But that we'll plan that out a bit better than the Area 51 thing.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, there will be Naruto running. No matter what we do, there will be Naruto running.
Yes. Has to be.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. Well, yeah, like Mike said, give us a subscribe, a comment. Not much else to say, but to say thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, a heartfelt thank you. And we're a few days out from Christmas on recording this. So have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Happy New Year. If whatever you do, have a happy, pleasant holiday season.
Yes, and be safe.
Yes, above all, be safe.
Yes.
Don't do anything I would do. It's fun, but it doesn't last very long.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. Y'all have a great one, all right? Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.